Force is strong in my family. Force is strong in my family. My father has it. My father has it. I have it. I have it. My sister has it. My sister has it. You have that power too. You have that power too. In time, you'll learn to use it as I have.
We would be honored if you would join us.
Chewie, we're home.
My Nerd World.
Welcome to episode number 31 of the Star Wars podcast. I am your host, creator of My Nerd World, because it is my nerd world, Jon Justice. And are you ready?
Get ready!
Okay, for what?
All right, let's light it up!
And now, in 5 days, the wait is over. Star Wars: The Force Awakens, rated PG-13.
I'm not sure that I'm ready. I'm not kidding you. I have such mixed emotions right now about the fact that it's Sunday afternoon, and on Thursday, I will be waking up that morning and knowing that in a matter of hours, I'll be waiting in line, and that I'll be waiting in line to watch Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens, for the first time with my 13-year-old son, Logan. And then I know on Friday I'll be watching it again, and it hasn't quite registered yet. And I said last week on the podcast, I had this kind of bittersweet feeling like, oh my gosh, we're almost there. And it's been such a long journey, but yet it doesn't seem like it's that long. You know, I had that audio that I played from my radio show back in 2012, Halloween of 2012, and I'm just like going, oh my gosh. I mean, when we found out we were going to get another movie, and not just another movie, another trilogy, and then we're going to get anthology films, and just, I mean, Star Wars is back, and we've been living with it for so long, and all the hype leading up to this moment, and I don't know, it's really bizarre. My head's not really wrapped around it yet, and I'm not really sure how I'm gonna react. You know, it's funny. I was on a bike ride, and this was, oh gosh, it was early last week. We went to California on Wednesday, and I'll talk a little bit about that later on in the show. But I was on a bike ride. I think it was Monday or Tuesday, and it sunk in. I'm like, oh my gosh, next week I'm going to be seeing this movie, and I started to get teary-eyed thinking about it. It's been such a long journey, and I've been following this, and doing the podcast has brought a different level to the hype surrounding it for me. And we're going to see that blue a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, and then the opening crawl. It's really unbelievable that we're just a few short days away. I don't know, man. It's weird. It's a weird moment. And I decided I was going to treat this podcast a little bit differently than I did last week. And maybe I shouldn't even bother describing it. You know, I mean, I don't know. It's just part of my nature in terms of, you know, what my plan is and how I'm going to, go about the podcast. I know last week I said I was treating it more like my radio show, and I covered stories like I do on my show. And you know what? I enjoyed the podcast, but I decided this week I was going to go the other way. I'm just going to speak straight from the heart on this. There was a comment that I heard another podcaster say, and it might have even been on a tweet, but it was so incredibly telling. And it was in reference to guys my age. I'm 43 years old. Not to the new fans, but to guys that are my age, maybe a handful of years younger and then older, that were around and saw these movies in the movie theater for the first time, weren't exposed to them later on, but actually saw them when they debuted. And the comment that they made was, Star Wars was great and it was groundbreaking, and it was something that we'd never seen before. But the nostalgia that we have for it, those of us that were kids when those movies came out, and that nostalgia that we long for, and the feelings that we try to get from these other movies, wasn't the movie. It was the memories that we created around the movie and the movies when they came out the first time. And I went, wow, that's true. Now, that's not to take away what George Lucas did. You wouldn't, and we wouldn't have created those memories if it wasn't for what George Lucas created in that original trilogy. But when you think about the feelings that you get and the nostalgia and wanting to recapture that, it really is, he's right. And maybe it's the obvious thing, and I just really hadn't thought about it in those terms, but it's the feelings that we had and the memories that we created with our buddies. I remember grabbing a plastic pool hose that we would use to clean the pool. My dad had built, it was an above-ground doughboy pool, but he decided to dig a hole in the backyard, drop it into the backyard, and then a couple of feet, and then build this really nice deck around it. And I remember playing Star Wars in the backyard with my buddies. I remember wrapping myself up in that pool hose and falling into the pool like I was being attacked by the Dianoga in the trash compactor. I remember the birthdays and getting my first playset, which was an AT-AT. It wasn't the full toy AT-AT. It was a playset where it was a background AT-AT and had some ground attached to it. And the action figures, you got to play some, on the snow part of it with the AT-AT in the background. I remember getting the toys when I was a kid. I remember getting the action figures when I was a kid. And he's right. It was the memories that we built around it. And I'm so glad that I heard or saw that comment, because it really made me realize I was creating new memories around this new sequel trilogy, especially with my sons. We drove out to California on Wednesday. Got there, pretty late, around 9:30, 10 o'clock on Wednesday night, and then spent the entire day at Disneyland on Thursday. And we got to experience Tomorrowland as part of Season of the Force, which was just great. Melinda even made a comment. She said that they should never change it. I mean, it's so great to walk through Tomorrowland and just hear a constant Star Wars themes, right? All the Star Wars soundtrack be playing in the background. And it wasn't repetitive. They played all the different themes. It was great because it never felt like you were hearing the same thing over and over again. And to see everything decorated in Star Wars, and to go on Star Tours. And I'm not going to lie, while I was getting queasy on Star Tours, because I do that, right? I just go, you can only handle so much of that ride. Like, it couldn't be any longer than what it is, because I don't think I can make it through without, yakking. It just kind of really throws you off kilter. But, you go to Jakku. They updated it, and you go to Jakku. And I got teary-eyed, man, watching it on Star Tours. And then seeing all the toys, and then going into the launch bay and seeing all the Star Wars models that were there. I mean, it was just fantastic. And, Logan's 13, he's getting older, and he still enjoys going with us to Disneyland, but I remember what it was like for me when I was 13, and, it's not quite as cool, but Kyle, my 9-year-old, is just gravitating towards it and is all into it. And I just realized, man, I'm creating all these new memories around this new sequel trilogy. And, and again, a lot of it has to do with the movies. There's a lot of emotions attached to it. But just that comment that, that nostalgia that we cling to is in large part due to how it affected us after the movie, because we didn't have a chance to watch it over and over again. I mean, when those movies came out, we didn't get our VHS copies for a long time afterwards, until years afterwards, and so there was no way to keep watching it over and over, and so we've just relived it over and over, playing Star Wars, and that's why we gravitate towards that's why the toys are so popular. Because we're trying to recapture that thing that we had when we were younger, and I'm feeling that again. But I'm creating new memories now. I'm creating memories, like I said, with my sons surrounding this, and our trip to Disneyland will be a part of this, and watching the movies will be a part of this. I meant to finish Empire Strikes Back last night on Saturday, but just didn't get a chance to because it was too late, and I was still just really tired from our trip because we ended up coming home earlier than expected on Friday, and I just spent the whole time while the family was sleeping on the drive home, I just listened to Star Wars podcasts, and it's so great to be a part of that community and to hear other individuals talk about how excited they are for this movie, and it's tough because I'm thinking to myself, wow, how am I going to get through the next few days of shows? But then again, I say that, my regular radio show, right? I say that, but in reality, I'm glad those are there because I need the stuff to fill the time. I've got a really busy week leading into Thursday, and I'm glad that I do because these next couple of days are just going to fly by. I'm going to avoid any spoilers for the rest of the podcast. I'm not going to get into details of the movie right now. We've seen everything. They've released some new footage. There was a Japanese, was it a Japanese trailer or was it a Chinese? It was a Chinese trailer. This Chinese trailer came out, and we were on our drive home. We were driving there. We were driving out on Wednesday, and there's this Shiriako Summit. And there's a gas station there on the way to California. It's in California right before you head into to Indio off the 10 freeway. And they've got a tank museum there, and my son's all into tanks. And we stopped to get something to eat, and there's a little diner there. Horrible food, but there's a diner there, and we stopped into the diner to get something to eat. And I checked my phone, and this Chinese trailer dropped with a handful of new footage, full trailer, long trailer. So it's like the third full one between the U.S. full trailer, and then we got the Japanese trailer, and now we got the Chinese trailer. Just spectacular. But that was the moment where I said to myself, and I've still watched all the TV spots, but that was the moment when I said to myself, okay, I've seen enough now. I don't need to see any more. I'm ready for this. And I've actually, while I've still been going to the Reddit Leaks website, there are some links I haven't been clicking on because while I know a lot about this movie in terms of its shape and, the beats that it's supposed to hit, there are little tiny details that I don't want to know. There are things that I don't want to know. There's this big battle raging right now. I say battle, but, everything's relative. But there's this big debate going on right now over Supreme Leader Snoke. And there's been some artwork that's come out from the art book, the Art of the Force Awakens book. There was some controversy surrounding another podcast where there was some fan art that somebody said was Snoke, and they had independent sources said that that's what he looked like, and if he does look like that, then it would have been Darth Plagueis. And there's been all this battle waging and this debate waging online, and it's been fun to watch. But I'm going, yeah, you know what? I'm good. I really don't need to know anymore. And if an actual picture of Supreme Leader Snoke was released, I probably wouldn't take a look at it. And there's been some children's books that have been released, and I clicked on one, and it gave us a very little minute detail of a scene, and I went, no, I don't want to know that. I don't want to know that. I've been enjoying reading the spoilers. I've been enjoying the leaks so far. It's been something for me that's been a lot of fun and has made my own personal journey to The Force Awakens what it is, as sort of just an adventure and my own mystery box being revealed. But I always knew that when